Well, welcome back to the Change Physician podcast community here on Facebook. If you are catching me on Challenge Doctor, we're just cross-posting this, so other people that know who I am see some other things that we're doing. And I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro, who's going to come from behind that screen at any point now.
Just a second. I'm trying to.
We got.
I do my little share here as much as I can, and
okay.
It always takes a while.
We're waiting on the co-host.
Hey, I'm still here. You can start talking.
Okay. Well, we're always here on Fridays, at least as much as possible. We've been keeping to it every week, usually in the afternoons around 3:00-ish. Sometimes you run a little later, just depends on our schedules. But we like to share what have been going on the podcast over the past week, and then what's coming up in the next week. And of course, our Friday Faves is focused mainly on just something favorite of ours that we've experienced or seen or thought of. And we like to share it with our audience and just bring in conversation. We never know where it's going to go. It can end up on any kind of tangent. But I'll go ahead and hit on while I'm waiting on our co-host to show up.
I'm just walking in. Oh my God, there's people behind me.
Oh my gosh, you scared all of us.
Super creepy. It's like, okay, so that's my new favorite thing for Friday the 13th is
yes,
creepy Zoom backgrounds. And
I should have found my own.
You should have.
We should have taken a poll on which one was the best background.
This one's, a lot of them had like the Halloween with the pumpkins and all that stuff, but
yeah. No, that's pretty creepy.
I think that's pretty creepy. I think it's kind of creeping me out just looking at it.
Yeah, I usually say you're the ghost, but there's some weird freaky things behind you.
Well, that does fit because I do ghost around.
Yeah, you ghost around a lot.
That's right.
Well, let's just tell our audience. You want to tell the audience what happened this past week on our podcast?
Yeah. So who did we have? We had Dr. Eric Larson of the Paradox podcast, which is this is a really cool podcast. And if you listen to that episode, you'll hear his story about why he started it. And originally was supposed to be a paradox, like two docs. The other physician kind of backed out at the end. And now it's him having discussion with other people. And Eric has kind of used that as a way to increase his thinking, to think deeper on challenging subjects. And rather than just assume, this is actually really relevant to this day and age that we live in now, that rather than assume that your beliefs are true or just kind of dwell on your own thoughts, is, you know what, I want to reach out and actually learn from experts, people who know, like people who are well-versed in this field rather than becoming, the Google expert or whatever. And so he brings on guests on his show and actually has these deep conversations. And he was quite honest about it. It was kind of from a selfish desire of his own learning. And this is great. One of the things that is really cool about having a podcast is you get to talk to different people and you have an opportunity to learn lots of new and different things. So that was a great episode. And it's been fun to talk to him since that time, because he also introduced us to his wife, who also is a podcaster, a pediatrician podcaster, and had some really, really powerful information and things from her episodes that'll be in about 4 weeks or 3 weeks or so. And then the second episode that we released this week was Dr. Peter Lehmann of Vintage Direct Primary Care, who we've had on before. And Peter's an awesome guy. I've known him for a number of years now. Actually met him through my other podcast that I don't publish that often. It was more pain related. And what that particular episode and why we brought him back was we've had conversations about direct primary care. If you're a physician, in particular, if you're in sort of a primary care model or something where you can kind of deliver more of a membership model, like it's more reassurance and ruling out bad things, direct care makes a lot of sense. And you see this kind of he said, she said thing. Well, people always say, well, it's not possible for me to do. And so a new physician often says, well, I can't do it. I don't have the patient population, et cetera. But physicians who've been practicing for a while, established physicians often are pretty hesitant to start something new as well, because there's risk there. And the risk may be, well, how am I going to enroll patients? Because technically your patients, usually if you're in a practice agreement, are the practices, not yours individually. You have things like non-compete clauses if you're in a specific state that has those. And so that's a great episode, as Peter was a practicing family doc with a large medical group for 22 years, well established. And when he decided to do this, there's some really great information on how to do that effectively. Now, he did start paving the path, meaning he wasn't a jerk off physician for 10 plus years and pissed off his partners and was a difficult person to work with. He's a great guy, worked really hard for his group. And because he had paved that path, the transition, which could be very, very scary, was not as scary. So that is a great episode if you're an established physician and you're interested in a new practice model. So a couple of great episodes. I think I say that all the time, though, is they're always great episodes.
We wouldn't publish them otherwise.
It's true. Actually, we wouldn't, folks. We wouldn't publish them.
I mean, there might be some lukewarm ones from once in a blue moon, but we're not going to put anything out there that's nothing but extraordinary. I think everyone has got an extraordinary story. And actually, I thought you did a great job on just explaining both of those episodes, because they are just really genuinely just amazing people to talk to and have these conversations, and very generous with their advice or guidance on what might be best for physicians, or even sometimes patients when they're looking for the right physician to see. It makes me think of actually I wanted you to start with the Friday Faves. Do you want to start with yours?
I did think about this.
Yeah.
And the issue, there was something I heard earlier this week, and I was like, oh, I'm going to save this for Friday Faves. And then
I did that too.
But it made me think about what are Friday Faves for me, and it kind of me as an individual. And I'm a pretty simple guy. And I don't know if I was always, in fact, I know I wasn't always like this, but there are things that I should be appreciative for. And they're sort of like the bigger things that people are like, oh, I need something really huge. And if it's a special event, I need a da-da-da-da. I have little things that happen every day that I'm very appreciative for. Mm-hmm. So mine, we've talked about, I have a lot of food related items because food makes me happy. This week in particular.
You're not the only one.
But this week, so we ran out. I talked about steel cut oats, like I don't know, maybe last Friday or 2 Fridays ago. We ran out. We had no more steel cut oats in the house. And it was bumming me out. And so then we got new steel cut oats, and I've been having steel cut oats for the last 2 days, and it makes me happy every time. I'm like, I love making it. And you stick it in the Instapot, and it's like the Ron Popeil, rotisserie thing. You set it and forget it, and then it's just done. And so I'll put it in there, and I'll work out, and I come back and I have my steel cut oats. It's just like, this makes me happy.
Do you put anything with it?
Yeah, I put brown sugar and a little cream. Yeah, and it's just delicious, and I love it. But it's just weird. Like you kind of think about that, because people are like, oh, I'm gonna do all this stuff. I'm gonna transform the world, and I need to do this. Otherwise, I'll never be happy. And I'm sitting here. I love steel cut oats. It's like,
hey, you just triggered me to think of this, but our experiences, whether it's pain or joy, like you found what is it about the oat? Is it the sensory experience? Is it like what? Well, of course it's sensory. There's taste, there's texture. So what is it?
It's the texture. I'm a texture guy, and I have so I like, but the reason I like steel cut oats as compared to rolled oats is they're chewier. I like those kind of chewy things, like tapioca balls. Like my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, introduced me to boba tea in 1998, and I fell in love with it because of the chewy texture of tapioca. I love tapioca pudding. I love, and this is going to sound pudding centric, but bread pudding, because there's this contrasting thing. I'm not a big liquidy guy for a lot of this stuff. I mean, I like drinks, water.
I've never heard that term. I'm not a liquidy.
There's a smooth person. So I like my sister, if she happens to watch this, maybe she'll get pissed off. But my sister has always had this thing against textures. So there's this joke in my house, and it's, like many jokes, is there's some fact in it. My sister didn't like to eat food. She had to choose, she wouldn't eat it. And so my mom has these stories about being a new parent, and she's older. My sister's older than me. And freaking out because she's convinced that my sister is not going to survive because she's never eating, and she was just a slow eater. And so she wouldn't eat anything she had to chew. And one time my mom got so upset. This is like the legend in my household.
Oh no.
And she got so angry that my sister wasn't eating. She grabbed her plate of food and stuck it in the blender and blended it up and said, "Drink this."
Oh my gosh.
It scarred my sister for life. You know, she's always, "Oh, remember when you did this?" And my mom's always, "It wasn't a big deal. And you wouldn't eat, and you didn't drink it anyway, blah, 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 blah." But
oh my God.
Yeah, so my sister has evolved. You would think after however many years, she actually does eat some things with texture. But it is definitely a texture thing for me. I just love the chewiness, like the little chewy nature of eating those things, and just happiness. It's like a mouthful of happiness.
Well, since you're sharing all those details, I might as well say I'm a dipper. I love to dip in something crunchy with a dip. So it's like something that's like creamy or basically a little bit of creaminess to it, like a cheese, a guacamole, or whatever, or a combination of a few things. And I love the action of, I like the texture, but I like I don't know, dipping, because I like to have a few things where it's a little variety. So it sounds so strange, but yeah, and textures, it depends. Like I love banana bread, but I don't like the nuts in the banana bread.
If you don't put nuts, it's not banana bread.
Oh yes, it is.
No, it is not.
Yes,
no,
it is.
Not. No, we have
arguments.
I love it. Like my son doesn't like nuts because he's allergic to a couple of them, like nothing serious allergic, but doesn't eat a couple nuts, and so he just avoids nuts in general. And so she'll make him banana bread without nuts, and it's not banana bread. I'm sorry.
No, the best banana bread I had was when I lived in Adobe Mall. The Adobe, like it was like a off-campus, what do you call them? Dorm, literally across the street from UT Austin. So it really kind of on the edge of campus. But the lady there made banana bread extraordinaire, never put nuts in it, put a little powdered sugar on top. And it was just so moist and buttery and addictive. And I loved it. And that is like the epitome of the best banana bread I've ever had in my life. And forget the little walnut things, forget the little other thing. And I don't mind like a little bit of seeds on, you know, like a whole grain bread or something. But when it comes to sweet type bread, I don't like nuts in it. Everyone's probably wondering, why are we talking about this on Friday Faves?
Because this is, but it is a good point. It's like the small things, right? That you really should be appreciative, or I should say, there are grand things that happen, but the more you can appreciate the small things that happen every day, I do think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and the invisible things like autonomy, being able to make your own schedule. You know, stop working when you want to work, not be stuck to a, you know, rigid schedule, a little variety, a little spice to life instead of the same routine over and over. You want to hit your head against the wall. A lot of people.
Unless you like routine. Like there's some people who thrive on that routine.
Yes.
Who want that rigid sort of thing.
I don't need that.
Huh?
I don't need rigidity and routine for me.
No. But the biggest thing being choice, right? Do you have choice? Have you preserved your choice? And are you aware that you have a choice in these things? So that is a Friday. So textures and weird textures. And Melissa doesn't know what good banana bread is. So we'll forgive her.
Well, we'll just say that we'll agree to disagree, just like anything in life. We have different beliefs on the status of what ideal banana bread is like. Just because that's how it's traditionally presented to you and you're used to it doesn't mean, you know.
Are you an anti-nutter though? Are you an anti-nutter? Are you an anti-nutter? Like, do you not like? Do you like not like nuts? Like,
oh, I love nuts. I love cashews, almonds.
But they have to be. So you're a food segregator.
I like to segregate my nuts. God, I'm a woman. Oh my God. Yeah, that was just not good. I wonder how many people are gonna hear that one. Anyway, so the only time even my husband likes to put nuts in my shakes, and I can't handle. I don't like those little pieces in there. But
like a blizzard. Like
now, if you create if it's a protein shake or a shake for a meal, I don't want little nuts in there. But if it's for a dessert that's like a creamy ice cream and there's a few nuts in there, I'm okay with that. It's if I want to drink it, I don't want the nuts in it. But if I'm going to spoon it, I'm okay with the nuts.
Well, that makes sense. That's sort of like a safety standpoint. If you're actually going to drink something,
yeah,
and that's the action that you're going to take, you're not going to want something that can potentially cause you to asphyxiate and die.
Yeah, it just ruins the whole experience of what I'm supposed to be like. The liquid, it just.
So you don't like boba tea then?
I don't suspect that I would. Yeah, but I think I've had it once by accident. I wasn't sure what it was, but yeah, I have to try it again to give you a definitive on that. But I'm pretty adaptable. I can,
Well, it is a complex drinking experience, right? Because it's a drinking eating combo experience, which I can see might be challenging for you because you have to be able to stop and chew in the process of drinking. It is pretty dangerous, It's for the risk takers to like the boba.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm not that. I also don't like coffee. I think that tastes.
Oh, it's not coffee.
No, I know, but I'm just thinking of like the thing that a lot of people like that they do a lot, like daily. I don't enjoy the coffee taste whatsoever.
Do you drink coffee?
No.
Oh, what do you drink?
Caffeine. It's either when I'm being good, it's just my True Lemon, which has no artificial sweeteners, and when I'm bad, it's a Monster that I shouldn't drink.
Oh, a Monster. Okay.
Yeah, I know. The white one though, without all the colors and stuff, but usually. But that's my vice if I'm going to have something. So just to tell the world, I'm not perfect in my diet, but I do pretty well. My vice is a little caffeine. That's about it.
That's a lot. I actually had a fitness question I want to ask you.
Sure.
And this is okay. If you guys don't know, like Melissa never ever advertises or says anything about it, but she's like a total fitness pro. In fact, you were a fitness pro. She doesn't say it. She hides
8 weeks.
It. Well, whatever. You 99% of the world, you're more of a fitness pro.
Well, I didn't do it that great, but okay.
All right, whatever. More than most. And she hides it. She hides it all the time.
Okay.
People run around. Anyway, so this is something I've so when it comes to exercise, I've been doing more weight lifting this month, and I've had some episodes where you're supposed to lift and then you relax, you stop or what, you have the rest days and all that jazz, and I'm doing that. But it seems like when I come back after, so I'm like on a 2 and 2 Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I come back on Monday, and I feel like my lifts are weaker. Like it doesn't seem right. Like, and part of it is, so I lifted when I was a senior in high school. I lifted a lot, and then you get all the gains because you're young and indestructible and your body's just like awesome.
Yeah.
But, so now I'm trying to figure out, so is it because I'm older and then our physical resiliency starts getting more tricky? You have to look at the timing a little bit more. Have you heard anything about that? Or do you think spacing changes as you get older?
Well, I guess my question is, what do you do on the Wednesday between, maybe that 1 day difference versus 2 day difference might be enough for you. I don't know. It also depends on how much you're really pushing during those. Are you doing the full body on Monday and Tuesday?
No, it's a split workout, and it's not like I'm going to total failure. Like if you would have a workout partner and you can go to absolute failure.
So you're not real sore afterwards.
No. There's a little bit. Just a little bit of soreness, but nothing like crazy. It's like, that's what I'm really puzzled about. Like it's just weird. Like it's just a weird thing.
Yeah. My first instinct is to think, if you're covering your whole body on Monday and Tuesday and have 1 day off, but yet then you have 2 days off after the other, and you really aren't pushing yourself enough to really make any gains, that you might just have a little bit of a drop back. It may feel more challenging after 2 days versus 1 day. I don't know. That's my first instinct. I was a personal trainer up through medical school, but, and I'm got, personal experience, just, using my body in ways that a lot of people don't want to, as far as physical activity. In fact, my husband thought I was just going to have a stroke running outside when it was 100 degrees, but I also I put intermittent walks in between those jogs, just to keep my body, be able to handle it.
And you didn't just jump out and do that. It's not like that.
It's not the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm adapted a little bit.
Yeah. that's a big deal, being adapted to your climate. But
it's interesting too, because I had, it's pretty common to have like a left ventricular hypertrophy or just a little bit, built up muscle as an athlete. And it's interesting now, it's you find that there's you think about how strong the ventricle is when it pushes, and it's interesting, my atria are slightly enlarged, that you find in athletes.
With an echo machine?
What's that?
Are you looking at your heart with an echo?
I had to get one for some other reason. So the atria, even my primary doctor is like, you got like atria of like a whale, I'm like, oh, that's nice. But it's interesting how the body, even as an, when you're an athlete or just push it, and I don't mean like, dilation of your atria for unhealthy reasons, but, the thing is that you get adaptive changes. And so with that extra effort, those things can, modify a little bit to accommodate that kind of volume and stress that you put. So I bring that up because, I think as I've gotten older, I've recognized how valuable it is to understand that over exercising is not healthy. And what is over exercising for you? It depends on you, but under exercising is our biggest problem in this country, but over exercising is another extreme, which sometimes that's a poor adaptive type of coping where you go to excess, and then it actually can have repercussions on your body because it's trying to adapt to that stress all the time. But
just reinforcing though that's the minority rather than the majority. Like if you have the default risk is people not moving much.
Don't use that as an excuse if you're not doing anything.
I just remember because there was that there was some press, oh God, it's probably 5 years ago now, that came out because there, if you have marathoners and ultra marathoners, they were demonstrating that there were some cardiac changes with them and blah, 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 and too much exercise or whatever. And I remember seeing that because it was getting all the press, and I was like, okay, but 99% of the world doesn't need to see that. What they need to see is you're not moving, you're going to die. Like, statics, being static is bad for your body. But
a lot of reasons.
But that brings down to the point of balance, right? So balance is whatever it is, balance. Like if you're super rigid about your diet, that's not necessarily healthy. If you're it's all about flexibility, which actually adds up to my second Friday fave, because we've only done one. Do you want to move into that one?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Although let me make an exception. Okay. The only time you need to be rigid about a dietary restriction is if you have anaphylaxis to a particular item. That one you should avoid.
Well, yeah, that one you should avoid. Yeah. Don't eat poison either. That would be another one.
That's not good.
But this moves in the term of psychological flexibility. Right? The ability to sort of bend. And that's kind of a core trait of resiliency as well. So resiliency, everybody thinks is super rigid and strong. Resiliency is not about rigid and strength. It's the ability to bend and then but
not break.
Or in rebound. To bend without breaking in rebounding is really the act of resiliency. Yeah. Or if you do break, is to regrow and recover and then rebound. But psychological flexibility has come up a lot this week because I bought a book. I've been I have some familiarity with ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. It's pretty common in the pain world. And with the stuff that I teach, kind of the model that I use, it seems very in tune, I would say, and how you apply it. But I've always argued that I'm like, well, I'm not an ACT therapist, so it's up to you. And I've had a couple of groups, and I'm kind of working with these people, and I'm like, well, okay, I probably need a little more understanding. So I bought a couple books, a couple of them are recommended, and the one that I bought, which I really, really enjoy, is called ACT Made Simple by Russ Harris, who is a physician in Australia and is pretty well known for ACT trainings. He's written books that have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. In fact, the first one I bought was called The Happiness Trap, which I didn't like, but that was because I wasn't reading this stuff to be happy. I was reading because I wanted to learn what the tools and techniques were, and I didn't need all the fluff. And so The Happiness Trap, if you were having trouble, I think, with happiness and acceptance and psychological flexibility, probably a great book. But if you're interested in ACT as a therapy, and maybe you have a little background and you want more, it's really good. It's in a workbook format. He's got an interesting writing style. He kind of presents the core concepts to ACT, kind of delves into them a little bit more. And of course, everybody, once you start mastering something, you adapt it a little bit. And he says, well, here's how it started, and here's some of the things that I use. And So I really like it. I think it's a fantastic book. If you're interested in that, if you're not interested in it, then don't. But psychological flexibility is a particularly good skill to develop, I think.
Yeah. That's
Actually,
your Friday fave?
That's one of my Friday faves. Yeah.
The book.
The book. That's my second one. So the first one is Food Texture of Steel Cut Oats. That can just be recurring theme because it's awesome and it makes you happy. And then the second one would be ACT Made Simple by Russ Harris, which is a little bit more clinically oriented than we usually do, but a really good book, really well made, really well written.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you made me think of this idea of, because I always say as the challenge doctor, a few things, see change within challenge for several reasons, but challenge your health before your health challenges you. And it makes me think of the acceptance and commitment therapy you're talking about. And I'd like to hear your view on this, but it's when I heard someone explain it, they basically try to frame things as, do you want, it's like pain now or pain later? Like if you have to, take care of your body and it might be painful to work through initially, but you're avoiding the pain of the deconditioning and other health problems that'll come down the road. What do you think about that kind of concept of, I mean, it's very simplified, but it's kind of like pain now or pain later. Which would you rather have?
I think that is not
good.
Not as in tune with my understanding.
Okay.
Because it's not necessarily as future oriented as values oriented.
Gotcha.
And so the framing is more about what are you doing in the now, and to make an active and aware choice to pursue something and being very, very aware of the payoffs and the consequences of that decision. So instead of saying, well, you have to do this now so that the future is better, it's really, what are you doing in this moment in time? And does that line up with your values that you've stated and that you're living by? So, and if your behavior is in line with those values, it's going to ultimately get you that goal, but you're not necessarily seeing so far in the future. It's really in the moment of the now, is being conscious and making those aware choices.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting because there's a couple things about ACTE. The biggest that I got some criticism on when I was working with the group is my feeling about ACT, and it probably had to do with the name, with this acceptance and commitment, is the idea that you're accepting something, and then particularly when it comes to pain, is this idea that, oh, you're just accepting the pain, and then despite the pain, you can still live a value-oriented life. Now, I do know some people are presenting it that way. That's not necessarily, that's more of a pain problem, like not understanding pain problem, as compared to the therapy problem. The acceptance point is just more about being aware of where you are and acknowledging what is in your control and what's not in your control, and particularly what is easier for you to control than not. So that I really like about this book by Russ Harris is he provides these examples of like thoughts and feelings versus actions and doing. Well, what your behaviors are significantly greater under your control than your thoughts and feelings are. And he has these exercises like, okay, if someone puts a gun to your head and says, don't be scared, you're not going to be able to do that. Like maybe if you're super Zen warrior, at peace, have been living forever on whatever, like you've reached the Buddha status where everything is as it is.
Yeah.
Maybe that person. But for most of us, you're not going to be able to go. It's like if I tell you, don't think about white bears, thought suppression, you're going to end up thinking about white bears. In fact, if you even sort of push it out of the way, you're going to rebound and you have rebound from thought suppression. But what you can do is if someone, gun to the head and someone says, walk like a chicken, no matter how stupid, you can do that because that's the action. So we're in much more control of those actions. So it's kind of becoming aware in the moment in time, creating this idea of aware and active choices that are aligned with values, and then being very cognizant of the behavior that aligns with that, because that behavior we can control. And through that behavior, then the thoughts and feelings, the emotions, et cetera, the experience may change. So it's pretty now oriented with an awareness of where you would, where your thoughts and goals are. I mean, there's definitely goal setting in there and some other things, but that's a very long way to say is it's pretty cool stuff. It is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Psychology and all these different things that they're tools that you could use to really transform your life if you utilize it. What were you going to say?
Oh, and there's commonalities too, right? So, a lot of the therapies that have evolved, it's not like they're brand new, because then you start looking back at humans as humans, we think that kind of makes us humans. And a percentage of people start thinking, well, what is it that makes either a good human or makes life worth living? And so there's a lot of thoughts that have been occurring for thousands and thousands of years. And so even with like ACT, you see these common threads: ACT, MBSR, even CBT therapies, and Stoic philosophy, the ancient Greeks, and there's many different things besides Stoicism that they were thinking. If you go on the Eastern side, we obviously have like Buddhism, Taoism, but if you start kind of looking at this broad picture, there's these core principles that keep coming up again and again and again. And to me, that's part of the interesting thing, because when you find many different groups that have sort of independently found a very similar process or idea or concept that's important, those kind of resonate. And for me, that's true. And as I say that now, I'm like, that's sort of like science, I guess. When you put through the hypothesis and you have multiple different people who verify that hypothesis, that's sort of how we figure out what's true in the world, rather than this is the truth.
Yeah, it's like a common thread.
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the different things that even in the pain world that we make attributions that certain things work for certain people because of certain things, when if you look at the whole spectrum, there's some commonalities to all of them that might be more instructive in what's really helping. Yep,
absolutely. No argument there.
Well, I guess I should do a Friday fave. There was one I forgot, and I thought about it on Monday, and then it slipped my mind. I should have written it down. I don't know if I mentioned, there's a couple things I was thinking. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I found some apps that I'm really digging, that there's some things that grow out in my backyard, and I've been snapping pictures or in the neighborhood that I like, that I might want. And it tells you what they are and tells you a little bit about them. Like Picture This is one of them, or some other plant apps. So.
That just is amazing.
Love it. It's so great. Amazing. Yeah. So if you feel like you don't know anything, I mean, in fact, I found myself, now that I've looked things up, it's almost like I'm quizzing myself when I go buy them again. I'm like, oh, there's a moly, and there's a yopon.
Then you take a picture of it and verify?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. That's ideal learning in a lot of ways, right? Because you're putting a hypothesis, you're putting the thought in, you're presenting your answer, and then you have immediate verification and feedback is like some of the ideal techniques for learning.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. Super cool.
And you know what I found out? Oh, this is one of my favorite. So I found out that I have a, what's the Asian plum? It's called Asian plum also. That's how I remembered it. But it was just like a little plant in my backyard, and let me see if it'll pull it up. Asian plum tree. They're like little yellow looking plums, and literally if I just leave it alone, it's self-fertile. You don't have to have like cross fertilization with another plant like it. So it's going to eventually make fruit on there that I can make jams with or eat it as a plum or whatever. I can't believe I'm blanking on the name of it. But anyway, huh?
Is it Shiro?
No.
Is it Emerald Butte?
No.
Methley? That doesn't look yellow though.
Loquat. It's a loquat tree.
Oh, loquat. Oh my God. You have loquats?
I don't have them yet, but it's a small tree that's going to turn into, hopefully, if it gets enough sun, I guess.
No idea how much I love loquats.
Really?
Yeah. And you can't get them. Because
really?
they're delicate, right? So when we lived in San Diego, my wife's a family doc, and her patients all love her, right? They bring her stuff. And she had patients that brought in these bags. They would be these paper bags. And to harvest them, they would actually chop the branches off.
Oh.
And they're in the bundles. And so a loquat, for those of you guys who don't know, they're small. They almost look like an apricot. And because of the name, you almost mistake them to be that. But they are Oh my God, the flavor is so good. They're just absolutely delicious, and you can't find them. Like, and you don't find them in grocery stores. You
Hmm.
can't. You have to have them. You have to know somebody, maybe at a farmer's market if you're really, really lucky. But I am super jealous now that you have loquats. Like, super, super jealous.
Yeah, so some bird decided to fly itself over to my yard years ago and probably dumped a little seed and made that little tree.
You're
I mean,
so
it's
lucky.
randomly amongst cedar trees. I mean, who would have? It's like literally about a foot away from a cedar tree. I mean, I don't know how well it'll do, but I'm not cutting that guy down because I've been
No,
cutting
no.
down weeds and weeds and weeds, and now I've just kind of let things flourish to see what's like genuinely something. So I'm just letting it go for a while and just taking pictures of everything and finding out I've got little gems in the backyard.
You do have gems.
Yeah,
And
I've got an olive tree, which I think I need to get another one. I think it needs to cross fertilize. Anyone who knows about olive trees, feel free to shout out. But I've got an olive tree that's like 4 or 5 years old, hasn't made any olives yet. I've got a pomegranate tree that hasn't made any pomegranates yet. It's a few years old. And I've got a loquat tree.
hasn't
So
made any loquats yet.
hasn't made any loquats. So I'm fruitless in the backyard.
But
Hoping to have
hopeful. You're
very hopeful, optimistic. And I might just have to go find some other fun things to plant in my yard. Maybe a lemon tree. We'll see.
Lemons
But
are good because then you can make drinks.
yeah.
Lemons and limes. We had a lemon and a lime tree in our house in San Diego, and I specifically had them planted so that I could make drinks because I was actually making a lot more cocktails back then. But
Yeah.
it's good to have those. Very
And they
good.
like full sun, I assume.
Yeah. And they just, they're not. I guess citrus has some weird stuff. They have weird bugs and stuff, but we didn't have any problem with those.
Yeah, that's something I'll probably just learn along the way. But yeah, so that's one of my favorite discoveries this past week, that I have a loquat tree.
Well, that trumps all mine, man, because I love loquats. You have no idea. Like, I love loquats. Like, we looked at them, like, can you grow them in Oregon? You can't necessarily grow them here. Or I don't know. The last time I looked, I was like, you couldn't really do it. But look, they're so awesome. They're like,
Well, if it makes a lot of fruit one time, I'll overnight you some.
okay, I will hold you to that. This brings up a great point though for travel. So because we both of us have traveled quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I thought a lot about traveling because, what do you do? What do you buy? Well, most of the stuff that you can buy anywhere, you can buy on Amazon now. So then you're trucking all this garbage around, and sometimes it's cheaper on Amazon than it is to buy it in the location.
Right.
But the thing that you can get when you travel that you can't really get anywhere else is food, and specifically fruits.
Yeah.
So like, we were on the Yucatan Peninsula long, like 20 years ago, and they have fruits there that they don't have anywhere else, like that we certainly didn't have in the United States. And I won't even be able to pronounce them correctly. But so if you go someplace, eat the fruits, because most often, unless it's an apple or a pear or whatever, you're going to learn something really, really cool. And it's going to explore some tastes. And anyway, so that's a travel hint, is if you travel, you look for the food, and particularly fruits. Fruits is a big one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was trying to think of some of the things that I've seen. Gosh, there's one in Australia specifically that you don't see very often here, and I'm blanking. I know their avocados I was in New Zealand. They sold them it was very inexpensive to get them roadside. Big, huge avocados. They flourished pretty well there. I didn't expect that, but those were awesome. God, I can't think of passion fruit is a big thing down there.
In New Zealand?
Both, I think, but definitely Australia. It's a popular flavor in ice cream. A lot of their ice creams, they have this, they call it honey, not honeycomb. There's another word for it. Manuka honey is a big thing in New Zealand. So they make a lot of things with that.
Honey is another one to pick up. Like, and you can do that
Locals.
Local honey is awesome because I just love putting them up against each other, and then you can actually taste the differences. And I really, really enjoy that one. And avocado honey, super good.
Oh, never heard of that one.
It has this kind of slippery texture to it, and this kind of smooth taste to it. So I really liked avocado honey.
And do you agree there's supposed to be some kind of, from an allergy standpoint, some kind of like micro dosing of your that environment around there is supposed to help with allergies, or is that like a wives' tale?
I've heard that, and I'm going to put in as my predisposition to say that's probably wives' tale. I would go look and see.
Yeah.
I'm, you're not sure, because then the other thing is you're like, well, it's getting processed. Like how much of the antigen is really present after have they've done that? But who knows? It'd be interesting. And it certainly, if it makes you eat honey, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll use it. It's like me putting cinnamon in my coffee every day. Like I put cinnamon in my coffee because there's some
benefits.
There's some potential benefits with glucose metabolism. And I'm like, it makes my coffee taste better. And I'll pretend it makes my glucose metabolism better, And if it
does it have some aphrodisiac properties, or is that?
I'll take those too. I'll take those too. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, not that I need that, but whatever.
No, it doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, so that was my first one, and the second one, I was just thinking about how much I love my heated vest because I work in a cold environment sometimes. So this thing called Aurora Wear. OROROWEAR. I'm not an affiliate, but I freaking love it. And if you're in cold areas traveling, they've got like these heated gloves that you still could poke on your phone and still be able to make an effect on it. Heated socks. But the vest I use like every day. I'm in the operating room and you just push the button and within a few seconds it turns on, and you can go high, medium, low, and it's on low. It can go up to 10 hours, and the battery, it can charge your phone if you want to. It's like the best invention for.
I'm looking at it. I've never heard of this before, and so I'm on their website right now, and I'm like, this is awesome.
It's amazing.
And these aren't not like, I mean, they're the jackets are like $200 or whatever, but when you're thinking about $200 and they have the integrated technology does that come with the battery?
Yes.
Oh, that's not bad at all. That's super cool. What a great idea.
Go to the clearance section. I got mine for almost 50% off. And I went with a large just because I didn't have any mediums at the time, but you want it kind of close to you, but I wear, things underneath it. So I was fine with the large.
Men's heated fleece vest. Usually $140 is $100. 50
and they usually
Black Friday sale.
Yeah. They're running sales too most of the time.
This is like a great idea because like the other thing, if I must be thinking about travel because I'm just tired of being not able to travel. Not that.
Yeah.
But when you can actually travel again, one of the things is if you're traveling in northern countries, is what do you bring?
Yeah.
Because if it's cold or not. And so I've got that, I have like a light down jacket and then I have a rain jacket that I can fit over that. So they have this layering thing. But this would be super awesome having that.
It's amazing. So you'll feel the heat along the back of your neck, your upper back, and then the pocket area. When you put your hands in, it's towards your tummy. So you'll feel the warmth there. And it's just like, it's perfect. And the thing is, if you're traveling, many times you should bring some kind of backup battery for your phone. So if you've got this, like I wear the vest, the sleeveless one, because of the kind of work I do. So I just wear that over, and then the little battery, like you could technically charge it. And if you're not using the vest, you could just use it as your plans for the travel day to have your backup for your phone. So just have your cable for your phone. It's a USB, connection to the box. So really awesome. Highly recommend it.
Well, that's a great fave because I wasn't aware of it. Now I'm like, wow, this is super awesome. I put that link in the comments actually to Aurora where people are interested. It looks super cool.
It is cool. Yeah. So there you go. There's our faves.
All right.
This has gone on for a long Friday fave. So I guess I should just chat about what's coming, which is super cool.
Yeah.
What's coming up. So we've got our first of the next week is Ali Abdull, who is a UK physician. He just finished, correct me if I'm wrong, he just finished his intern year. Is that right,
Kevin? Well, they have that weird thing.
Yeah.
Right? In that episode, we talk a little bit more about the differences between the United States and the UK sort of way they do their physician training. So it was more like he had just finished residency.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not quite the same thing, but kind of like
it's just part of it.
Well, then you can go into almost like a special. I think
specialty.
he can special. Like he could go off and be a generalist, and then after some amount of time, you can do something there. But yeah, I think that for a American United States physician, probably the easiest way is to kind of think about it being he just finished residency.
Yeah. So just to give you like some perspective on, I'm actually going to pull him up and see where he's currently.
It's over 1 million.
Yeah. So he's over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Just for anyone listening, this is just incredible what this guy, I think it's over a few years, right, Kevin? And
more than a few years. He's been doing it for a while. I mean, he started, I think pre-med. He started his
studying and definitely through medical school for sure. But he's done an amazing job, podcaster, YouTuber, just really efficient with what he's doing and creating a lot of value and guidance, especially for people that are trying to learn things in medicine. I think that's where it kind of started. So he just captures everything that he does, and he creates content out of everything he does. And so super brilliant at what he's doing there. Obviously been very successful on YouTube. He makes more money, just to give you a little insight, makes more money stuff online than what he makes as a physician. So very smart guy. The other thing that's coming up after that is Caleb Redden, who is a physician. Actually, he's been on our, let's see, back in October, he came in to tell his story as a sports medicine physician, and his hashtag is Doc4 if you want to find him on Instagram and whatnot. But he's going to actually talk about getting fit as a physician and talk about various topics related to that. So really fun episodes coming up next week, and definitely worth a listen. And this will be our first UK physician, I think, that we've interviewed. First one so far, right?
Ollie, yeah.
Yeah, Ollie is. Yeah,
he's our first international.
What's that?
He's our first international physician.
Yes,
first, but not our last. People know.
No, we're just getting started.
Just getting started. Yeah.
So there you go. Any last thoughts before we depart our Friday faves?
No. Other than these are always fun. It's always it's always fun to chat. Always kind of get these awareness. I hope you guys listening or watching these things pull out a little bit of something fun and useful in these dark days. And I'm laughing dark days because it's a rainy day here, and so it's been really, really dark. And we had the time change, which I absolutely can't stand.
I can't stand.
We should talk about that one day. It's like that's another one that just chaps my hide.
That's right.
Why are we not changing that?
Yeah, I love long days that don't get dark.
Yeah, and there's data to support not doing this. Like
for the brain,
kills people. Like it literally increases the amount of traffic passes. As soon as they have the fallback thing, there are, well, it'll be this year, maybe not, because people aren't maybe not driving as much, but people die, and then there's increase in stress related things that are occurring. So there's but there's an emerging body of research data that says this isn't good for you. And counter to that, because I just read an article on this, just not like on the counter side, the people who are the people who don't want it to change, their arguments is because it feels we just don't want it to change. It's like, come on, dude, you got data versus your feels.
Yeah,
you need to go with the data, and or at least be willing to look at the data and have a logical conversation around that. But anyway, another time.
That's a lot to ask for every American, to have logic in conversations.
Certainly is. Apparently it is.
I decided I'm just going to say it. It's true. Like there's so many emotions behind crazy decisions. So not that we're all immune to that, but anyway.
No. But we're aware of it. That's the difference. We're at least aware, and we're willing to kind of accept that. And that's a huge, huge thing.
Yeah.
We should do an episode on that sometime. But anyway.
We got all kinds of stuff we can talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for those of you listening, thanks for listening. If you listen to this point, you are rock stars, and we appreciate your support. And again, I am Melissa Cady with the Change Physician Podcast and Community, with my awesome guest from Oregon, and he is Dr. Kevin Cuccaro. Why'd you look at me like that?
Am I the guest or am I the co-host?
Did I say guest?
You did.
Oh, see,
You're already trying to push me out. She's trying to push me out, folks. You see it right here.
Did I say guest?
If you don't see me back on a future episode,
what I thought I said and what I said were not the same. Those were not in alignment. Anyway, we'll try that again. How about I say, for those of you listening, thank you for being so supportive of the Change Physician community. I am actually with my co-host, not my guest, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro, and I'm Melissa Cady. And you can find us if you want to join the community at thechangephysician.com. You can catch us on our podcasts at all the podcast venues. You can also see the video. If you're watching the video, obviously you know it's on YouTube. But until next time, we'll see you next Friday for another episode of Friday Faves. Take care.
Stay well, folks. Trying to push me out of the podcast. I see